Introducing God's Learning Channel's brand new Amazon bookstore, your gateway to a world of wisdom and faith. Our Amazon bookstore offers a remarkable collection of dozens of hand-picked items, carefully curated to enrich your spiritual journey. From a wide selection of traditional Christian and Jewish Bibles to Judaica treasures, biblical holiday merchandise, and even beautiful jewelry. Our Amazon bookstore has it all. Conveniently shop from the comfort of your own home at any time. Just visit our website or stop by our online bookstore. Or better yet, simply find us on Amazon to embark on a transformative shopping experience. New items are added regularly, so remember to always check back. Shop now and embrace the blessings that await you.
Hi friends, we at GLC would like to take a quick moment to thank you for watching our programs on this platform, and we'd like to ask you for a little favor. Would you please go beneath this video and click the subscribe button? Did you know that by simply subscribing to the GLC YouTube channel, you can help us financially support the programs on this platform? You'll need to be signed into YouTube beforehand. But if not, simply click the subscribe button and YouTube will automatically walk you through the steps to sign in or to create an account. By taking these simple steps, you will not only ensure that you continue to receive our unique programming and gain instant access to the hundreds of videos we post, but more importantly, you'll also be telling YouTube that GLC's content is worth watching and promoting. Likewise, if you enjoyed a specific program, please click the thumbs up button below, which also helps inform YouTube that this is a program worth recommending. Finally, once you have logged in and subscribed, please click the notification bell below in order to receive announcements when we post new content. As usual, feel free to post your questions and comments in the comments section below. We always love hearing from our friends and viewers. Again, thank you for watching and supporting God's Learning Channel. We couldn't spread the message of the gospel without you. Be blessed, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another exciting episode here on the Light of the Southwest on God's Learning Channel. I'm Eric, and
I'm Holly Espetiet. Shalom and welcome.
We are so excited to bring just a longtime patron, and some of you in the audience probably already know this person, but we are super excited to welcome Mr. Joseph Good with Haktikva Ministries. Joe, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. So can you remember the last time you were in our studio?
I think maybe a year ago or so.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've had a few times over the last couple years, few years.
Yeah.
Yeah. We used to be here all the time.
Right.
Yeah, I was just visiting with someone today, and she came into a higher understanding of the scriptures through your teachings on GLC, and was very thankful for what
we
you
loved
have
it.
shared.
There was really a move of God out here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're excited to be a part of the GLC team. And, you know, the Light of the Southwest, we're always trying to highlight different ministries in and around Texas. Are you a native Texan, Joe?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born in Southeast Texas, grew up in Port Arthur, Texas, lived in Nederland, Texas, just north of there, moved to Houston, Texas. I'm actually in Crosby, just outside Houston. And, but I kind of split that time with Israel as much as I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were heard in conversation a little earlier. You've been to Israel how many times?
97.
That's astounding.
Right.
97, yeah.
Wow. I mean, they say that, what is the scripture? When they go in to take Israel, they say the land of Israel is consuming. And it says, well, I'm going to give it to you little by little, lest the beasts of the field consume you. But I think when you visit Israel, it is consuming. It becomes a part of you, and I long for the day I get to go back.
Well, let me tell you, there's a possibility that we're going to be taking a tour in April, and Tommy Cooper will be on that tour, and Harold Holiday. Harold called me and said, hey, let's do a tour together.
Cool.
And
Wonderful.
so if we can get the dates worked out. Okay, so we always use Gila Trebich as our guide, and so Gila's open in April. Now we have a problem because also in April is Pesach.
Right.
Yes.
And I have like 100 people at my house for 2 days.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not an exaggeration. We literally put up a tent.
Wow.
And so we have the Seder, but that doesn't go up in a day.
Yeah.
And you don't get all the food purchased and everything done. So if I'm waiting on a message from her, but if we can go the last week of March, first week of April, we might have a tour that people watching this program might want to go with us.
Right.
Oh, I'm sure there will be many. So we would love to be kept up to date. And Tommy, being a part of that, I know that we will all be in the know. So awesome. That'll be wonderful.
That's great.
Yep.
To go with you would be just like, I don't know, is there a moment that you don't learn something?
If there is, then something's wrong.
That's right.
So Joe, would you kind of tell us, I know you're an expert in the Temple Mount, but how did you, as a young Texas boy, become one of the foremost, you teach the rabbis sometimes, I think. Is that right?
Well, I work with them.
You work with them.
I work with them. And in that environment, there's always, you're always learning from each other.
Yes.
Okay? And so, but it is remarkable because it was a door that was opened by God. It wasn't open.
Amen.
There was no way I could have made that happen.
Right.
But I'll take a moment and just kind of tell how I got from there to the first part.
Yeah.
Okay?
Great.
All right. I grew up in a church. I grew up in a Baptist church, and it was a good church. Okay? It's a good church. And my mother had us in church Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday night. You always had your shoes polished. You read your Sunday school lesson. You were in every hayride, every choir, everything, okay? And I grew up believing I was a Christian, all right? And so, and I had read the Bible. Reading the Bible was done in my family. Yeah. You didn't go, if you went on a trip, a Bible went with you, okay? But you can know all the things without actually being a believer.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
That takes a commitment, the point that you step across the line. And so I was working in a refinery, and there had been a move of God in this refinery. I mean, it was an oil refinery. And the guys that were out there, a lot of them were, they were the rough Harley-Davidson bore type, okay? And they were becoming believers. They were becoming this thing. When they walked in a room, you'd see people going out the back doors because...
Wow.
So anyway, I knew something was going on, so I started reading my Bible. And like I said, I'd read actually through the Bible probably twice by that time. But I started reading, and I couldn't read. I mean, I couldn't stop reading. And so I was working with a deacon from a Baptist church, and there was a young Catholic boy. One day, the deacon told me, he said, "Good, you can't go by that Bible. You got to go by what your pastor says or your church says." That's when I became a believer. I stepped across the line and said, "No, I don't accept that. I don't know what all this book says, but whatever it says, that's what I believe, and that's what I'm going to follow."
Amen.
And then my life began to change. Well, that week, I had a dream. And I didn't know when, in the morning, I couldn't have told you the dream. But I knew two things. I knew that, number one, the dream was from God. And number two, that I was going to be working in a life-size model of the temple. And I didn't know anything about the temple.
Wow.
I didn't know anything about Judaism more than what anybody else would know, or Fiddler on the Roof. That was kind of my expertise back then. And so anyway, I couldn't stop reading. And I had a King James Bible, and I was reading, but I had Strong's Concordance. And so anyway, if I came across something I didn't recognize, I looked it up. So I got to Acts 12. And in Acts 12, it says they were going to deliver Peter to be crucified after Easter. So I look up the word Easter. And I find out is the Greek word Paschal, which every other time is translated Passover. So I'm going, well, where'd this Easter come from? So I start looking at that and find that it actually came from a Babylonian goddess, and it was a fertility spring festival. And I said, well, I'm not going to do this anymore. And there was more involved, but I'm getting this short. I'm going to do a Passover. Well, I didn't know anything about it. So I go to the Christian bookstore, and I ask the lady, I want all your books on Passover. And so she didn't have any. So I asked her, can you look for me? Search and give me a call. So I go to the library, and they had books, but I was so ignorant I didn't find them. Back then, you had to use card catalogs.
Right.
And so I called the rabbi in our town. I said, Rabbi, I'm a Christian, but I want to do a Passover meal. Will you help me? He said, no. You can come to mine, but I won't help you do one. So I had already invited all these people to come to my house, and I had no information. It gets down to the day before, and the day before Passover is going to start, the Seder meal, and I've got all these people coming to my house. I have zero information, and I'm told, you need to cancel. And I said, no, I'm not going to cancel because I believe God led me to do this. And he's just going to have to supply me with information. So I left there, and that first bookstore I'd gone to, they were enlarging the bookcase. It was a duplex apartment. They were knocking the walls out and making it into one big bookstore. So I left to go over to help them. And I came in, and there was a pile of sheetrock. On top of the pile of sheetrock, there was a booklet, and it's called A Christian Guide to the Jewish Passover Seder.
Oh, my goodness.
And I knew it was from God.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. So after that, I got a book at the library on the prayer book for Rosh Hashanah. So I'm reading this. And the book, it basically says, in the Shacharit service, following the Pesukei de Zimra, when one gets to the Baruch and immediately following the Kiryat Shema. And I'm going, I don't know any of these words.
What did they just say?
And so, but I'm reading, and it's referring to things like the last trump. And I'm going, wait a second, the last trump. I've already read the Tanakh, or what people call the Old Testament, and there's no reference to the last trump in the Tanakh. Where you find it is 1 Corinthians 15. So I'm going, wait a second. Did this rabbi, in writing this book, did he use 1 Corinthians and the writings of Paul, or is it possible that Paul's using something from Rosh Hashanah and writing his epistles? And so I said, I got to find out about this. I finished reading this book. I only understood 10% of it, but it tripled what I understood about the Bible. And so, in the meantime, I'm studying everything I can on the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the temple. So let me ask you some questions.
Sure.
Perfect.
I always love to interview my interviewers.
I love it. You've been here longer than us. This
Okay.
is just great.
Yeah.
In fact,
All
just
right.
lead the show.
So, do you know what the Hebrew name for the temple is?
Besides Mishkan,
No, that's the tabernacle.
the Beit HaMikdash.
Beit HaMikdash. Very good.
Yes.
I'm impressed. Okay. All right. Now, when Moshe goes on the mountain, what is the first thing that God tells him on the mountain?
Oh, I don't know this. I need to phone a friend.
Okay, it's Shemot, or Exodus chapter 25. First 7 verses, he says, bring free will offerings. Verse 8, chapter 25, verse 8 says, build me a mikdash, so that I may shekante, okay, which means to dwell with.
Yes.
Shekante, okay. You know the Shekinah glory, right?
Right.
There is no such thing. It is man-made. It's totally Christian man-made. Okay? You will not find it in any ancient text. It's not in the Tanakh. What we do have is the Shekinah.
Shekinah.
Okay, that's the Shekinah.
Okay.
And then we have the kavod, which is the radiance or the glory. But they're two separate things. Okay? So the word Shekinah, Mishkan, and Shekinah come from the same word. And they mean to dwell. So the Shekinah is the dwelling presence. All right? All right. So it says, build the Mishkan according to the Tavnit. Okay, Tavnit means blueprint. And build all the vessels according to the Tavnit that I showed you on the mountain. And then it says, and just so shall you do it. Okay, so those, to say and in Hebrew, it's just one letter. It's a vav. Okay, it's the sixth letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Now Rashi, who is a very, very famous Jewish commentator, and he taught the people, you have to look at the words. He said, if the passage said, just so shall you do it, it would only apply to that generation. But if it says, and just so shall you do it, it changes the tense and becomes a continuing tense. Therefore, it applies to every generation. Okay. Now, from chapter 25, so first thing, he's told, when do we get a command that is not directly related to the temple? How far do we have to go? Give me a guess which chapter you think, how many chapters it would be or whatever.
A command?
That's not related to the temple.
There was a command to keep the Passover before they came out of Egypt.
Well, the Passover is going to be,
Okay.
wait, this is at Mount Sinai.
Okay,
You're talking
okay.
about,
Sorry, yes.
okay. So once he goes up on the mountain,
Right.
yeah,
What's the next command after that? Because he's going to deal with giving the pattern, the offerings, and then how to make it, the fashioning.
the
of all
priesthood. Okay,
yeah.
so you got to go through Exodus 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40. Vayikra, Leviticus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
And
Before
then
you get to a commandment that is not direct. Now, what do we learn from that?
Wow.
that he really cares about this.
Well, that's kind of obvious. I mean, his first thing he says, first thing out of his mouth. Like, okay, let me give you an instruction. And what we learn is that all the other commandments are to be viewed through the lens of the temple. Okay, so let me give you an example. I want you to tell me out of the Tanakh. Okay, we're going to make it simple, just out of the Tanakh, the Old Testament. You have to give me a name of a person, not like the high priest or something like that, okay? I want which person do you think was called holy the most number of times?
Not from the priesthood?
Well, no.
Aaron?
Aaron's a good name, okay?
Yeah.
You think he was called holy the most number of times? All right, give me
yes.
some more.
Besides Moses?
Okay, Moses is another one.
Moshe, yeah.
Give me another one.
Yehoshua? Joshua?
Joshua, all right. What about Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob? What about Noah? What about King David? What about the prophet Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel?
Who's called holy the most?
Yeah, who's called holy the most?
Maybe David.
David.
David Amelech, yeah.
Nope, it's
no?
not David, nor is it any of the others.
Okay.
No one is.
Oh, well,
No one is.
there you go.
God,
Okay.
God is holy,
Amen.
but no individual. And there's one scripture that we have where we read it in English. It says, this is where the woman that got the Elisha, the prophet, he tells, he says, you're going to be pregnant. She gets pregnant, has a child. And so she sees him coming. He says, in English we read, behold, the holy man of God. But I don't read that way in Hebrew. Behold, the man of the holy God.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
All right. Now, so is this a holy building where we are?
Yeah, this building,
No, it's not.
It's not holy.
No.
Because only God can make something holy.
Oh, that's
So
right.
we only have the temple is called holy.
Yeah.
All right? We have where the cave of Machpelah it has Kedusha. It's holy. But we cannot make something holy. I used to all the time, I would say, oh, this is a holy work. Okay? It can be a good work. It can be a righteous work, but it doesn't make it a holy work. Okay. So give me a definition. What does holy mean?
Holy. Okay, so if I get this wrong, Ben was going to get really upset with me. But holy would be opposite of like mundane.
Okay.
Right. So like everything else is mundane, but like
there's an expression in Hebrew.
God makes it something holy.
Set apart.
Set apart. Ben kodesh lechol, to separate between the holy and the common. All right. But you didn't give me a good definition.
Okay. Sorry.
Set apart?
That's
go
the
with that.
definition I would have given.
Right.
All right. But I read this book. In fact, I have it in my car with me. And it's by a rabbi out of Israel. It's very popular, he's an Orthodox rabbi. And the title of the book is The Temple. It's meaning yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Okay. And if I think, I'll think of the rabbi's name. Very, very good. But it starts with a chapter called What is Kedusha? Now, the temple is called Mikdash. What that means is house of Kedusha. Okay, so the house of Kedusha, what it means is separate by legal, formal restrictions.
Well.
And if you leave off, it doesn't mean just to separate.
Okay.
It means to separate by legal, formal restrictions. Like we have things we do not do on Shabbat. We have things we do not do on Yom Kippur. We have the temple is built up on teaching man about Kedusha. All right, so another question. When man was created, did man have Kedusha?
I think the only thing I can think of that would be set apart or separate by legal would maybe be the tree.
That tree. Don't eat from that tree. As long as he didn't do that, maybe he was.
Well, man did have Kedusha when man was created, because man was created in the image of God. But when man sinned, he was no longer in the image of God. So not only did man lose his Kedusha, he lost the concept of it. And so the temple is designed to teach it. And it teaches us how to draw close to God.
Yes.
Okay? And so all right. So, to start on the temple.
Yeah.
Goodness. It is massive to talk about, okay? Absolutely massive. You have 3 courtyards. Well, let me ask you questions. I like asking you questions. Okay.
I like how he flips the script on us.
Huh?
Flipping the script on us.
Oh, yeah. Y'all didn't know you were going to be interviewed on this, did you?
It's exciting.
All right. So do you have any idea how many phases of the temple there have been and will be?
Phases as far as like...
Solomon's temple.
Well,
like that.
Herod's temple.
Yeah, Solomon's Herod.
Okay.
Oh, there was a rebuilding.
Second temple era. Don't call it Herod's. It didn't belong to Herod.
No, but it is frequently called Herod's.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know. But then the temporary one also.
We have the Mishkan in the wilderness.
Who followed them around.
When it went across the Jordan, it was different. It had walls, stone walls. Yeah.
And it didn't move anymore, right?
No, it's permanent. The one, it goes to Gilgal first.
Right.
Then it goes from there to Shiloh. It'd be Gilgal for 14 years. It goes to Shiloh for 369 years.
Wow.
Wow.
Then it goes to Nov. And Saul had the priests killed there because they supported David. Then it goes from there to Gibeon. That's where Saul lived.
Yeah.
And then we have where the temple is going to be built in Jerusalem. So we have the Mishkan in the wilderness. We have the Mishkan across the Jordan. We have the first Beit HaMikdash, first temple. Then we have the second temple. Second temple has 3 eras in it, not E-R-R-O-R-S, E-R-A-S.
Yeah.
Okay,
Eras,
eras. So Ezra, or what we call the Persian period, and then the Hasmonean, they extended them out further to the south, and then Herodian is the last extension. Now, we have to build each one of these. The buildings are at the same location, and they're relative to where they were in the Mishkan. Okay, so you have this blueprint. You can't deviate, just so sure you do it. And so we're preparing to build the next temple. In order to build it, we have to build it according to the blueprint, the Tavnit of the last standing temple. Almost, you've been to Israel.
Yes.
Did you go up on the Temple Mount?
I did not.
Oh, my.
I got to only go to the Kotel and underground to some of those foundation stones, which I think was the extension of Herod's foundation, but we didn't get to go up on the Temple Mount.
What year did you go?
2016 and 2017.
Yeah, 16, 17.
Okay. All right. So you went to the Gavati parking lot. Possibly you went to the Western Wall tunnels.
Yes.
Okay. You didn't go to the Gavati parking lot.
Not sure.
Not sure. Is that right?
It's
Outside
across
of
the street.
David's palace?
Yeah.
Yeah. They were excavating, and there was fencing all around it, and it was just...
Did you go to the foundations there? The foundation stones for the temple there?
We went to the ones that were...
In the Western Wall tunnels?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Okay. We have to build the next temple based on, we have to find out where every building was. We have to find out how it operated. We have to have the prayers. We cannot make up our own prayers. We cannot come in and come out, well, we've got a temple liturgy. We're told in 1 Chronicles 28 that God gave that liturgy. Therefore, we have to get exactly that liturgy back.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, you say, people will say, well, how are you going to do it? It's not recorded anywhere. There's no CDs or, soundtracks or anything. How's that going to happen? Just about the way that pamphlet appeared in the wall. It was in God's hands. God will supply it. And so if you go on top of the Temple Mount, what you're going to see is the Dome of the Rock. You see Muslim monuments everywhere. You don't see anything of the temple unless you know where to look, what to look for, and that's what I do. That's what I work on, and I work with the rabbis. I work with some of the archaeologists, and that's what we do. And I have seen unbelievable things.
Wow.
Unbelievable things. We're learning all kinds of things. I think this is the most exciting part of it, is I could sit here and I could all day tell you about, this discovery and that discovery and that discovery. It's more important that I tell you there are discoveries. God is restoring it. It's bringing it back, and it's in His hands. Yeah. He's directing it. He's guiding it. We don't know how we're going to get to Temple Mount. It's not our problem. God will take care of that. And it's going to be in His timing. God will do virtually everything. But we are the generation that will see this come to be.
Yeah.
And we're the generation that needs to be in anticipation. We are surrounded by such negativity when we turn on the television and you hear on the news. And, whether you are a supporter of Trump or not a supporter of Trump, it's regardless of that, what's happening is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, every other president, you refer to him as President Bush. He's out of office, but he still has the honor of being called President Bush.
That's right.
All right? I wasn't a supporter of Obama, but he should be honored. President Obama, it's an office. They don't do that. It's never President Trump. It's just Trump is indicted on this, Trump is indicted on that, Trump is indicted on this, and it just keeps going. We hear all that is, we see what's happening in the economy. We see what's happening in the governments around the world. We see China is ready to fight. We have the Ukraine. We have all of these things that are happening. We need to see God.
Amen.
We need to see God. We need to see the hand of God. We need to see the hand of God moving towards a kingdom.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. World War II. World War II. Was the hand of God moving while the Holocaust was going on?
Yes.
Yes.
Certainly it was.
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't just somebody's bright idea, Theodore Herzl, to form a Zionist movement. Now, it was a situation that caused him to form that movement, but we see the hand of God. We see the plan of God. And so we have everything that happens with the Balfour Declaration being made by the British, General Allenby coming into the city, World War II. We see everything. It is but it's very easy to only see the bad of what's happening.
Right.
To only see,
Right.
look at the world around us.
Yep.
But God's at work. And God's at work in our time. And we have to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And we have to be a part of it. And we have to be listening. We have to be watching. We have to be ready and have to have belief that God's going to do it.
Amen.
And because that's what is happening.
Right.
Amen.
And that's the real world. That is not fake news.
Right.
Okay, that is, and so you want a barometer? Watch the temple. Watch the temple. You know, back in the 1990s, I used to go over, and there was probably less than a dozen Jews that went on the Temple Mount daily. Less than 12. And they were called crazies. People wrote articles about them in the newspapers. And they were insane. They were lunatics. And yes, the temple will be built, but not in our lifetime. And there were all these things. You know, last week was Tisha B'Av. And, or week before, you know, my days,
That's all right.
Wednesday the 27th.
Yep.
And Thursday the 28th. Okay, so that was, that's the day we mourn for the temple. And there were thousands of Jews that went up on the Temple Mount.
Wow.
Today, you go to the Kotel, and the ones that you hear are really the women. They are the activists. Boy, don't get in their way.
Oh,
And
wow.
but you'll hear them chanting the right to pray, the right to pray, the
Huh.
right to pray. What they're talking about is praying on the Temple Mount.
Right.
This past trip, when we would go on the Temple Mount, I used to go with primetime groups, okay, all the time. And sometimes we had to tell anybody, you can't say the word temple. You can't say, you know, any of these things. You can't talk about the offerings, because if they overhear you, they're going to kick you off. You can't raise your hand. Don't raise your hand if you need to go to the restroom, okay? Because they're going to kick the whole group off. If you can't bow your head, you can't close your eyes. Okay, I had a whole group that got kicked off the mount because a lady closed her eyes.
It looked like she was praying or something.
They thought she was praying. Whether they thought she was or not, they used it as an excuse to kick us off. And so now, my goodness, now you can go up there and you can pray.
It's like the sign that we're beginning to ascend, right?
God is making it happen. We had, this is no exaggeration, we had an Orthodox rabbi that I'm not going to say to protect him from where he's from, but he's a prominent Orthodox rabbi, knows all of us were believers. And he went on the trip with us. And he was on the Temple Mount with us, and he was singing in Hebrew his prayers.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow,
And
out loud.
out loud, yeah, out loud.
Wow.
We're standing there, and we're literally praying. You can't take a Siddur up with you, but you can take your phone, and you can have your Siddur, and you can have your prayers, and God's bringing about change. So
What's changed as far as the heart of the controlling authority over that? I mean, why do they just don't care anymore?
I have no idea. Literally, I have no idea.
Oh, wow.
But here's the thing that about last summer, there were 5 heifers from here in Texas.
Yes, we've heard about this.
Okay.
Excited.
Well, there were 5 heifers, and they're red.
Mm-hmm.
They're from a red Angus breed. And they were taken to Israel
From Texas.
from Texas, okay, to be possible red heifer candidates. All right. Now, you have no idea of how easy it is to disqualify a red heifer. Okay, so if she has 2 white hairs coming out of her one port, she's disqualified. If she has scars, she's disqualified. She can have moles, and you can remove the moles, but if the mole is a scar or the hair does not grow back there, she's disqualified.
Oh, my.
Wow.
Okay, so
Wow.
before, we had to have heifers from Israel. We don't anymore. Guess why?
I don't know why.
Well, because if you had a cow and you shipped it from the United States, what do you have to do?
Maybe vaccines or
All right, you gotta give-
tagging, maybe.
You have to tag it.
Okay.
The law says you have to tag it. Tag it. If you tag it, you disqualify it.
Should become a blemish. That's a blemish.
That's
or-
a blemish.
Okay.
Okay? So what they worked out is they have a microchip, and they are going to put it right by the tail. There is a place by the tail that there is no hair.
Oh.
Okay? And so they were able to do this, and that satisfied the U.S. government, it satisfied the Israeli government, and we had cows in the air.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so a friend of mine, Eliyahu Berkowitz, he's the one that covered it. If you saw the videos, that was Eliyahu Berkowitz.
Mhm.
And so, anyway, the calves came, and there is an organization, Boneh Israel. Boneh means to build. And in the grace after the meal, we have Shibonei Israel, Shibonei Yerushalayim, okay? Talking about to build. And this is the organization that raised the money for these. Okay, I want to digress.
Okay.
Okay, the first heifer that was a candidate in 2,000 years was back in the early 1990s. Her name was Melody. Melody came from parents that should not have given a red calf. She was at a kibbutz up close to Haifa. Now, I went there 3 times. One time I went with God's Learning Channel.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
and so, Jackie, were you on that? Were you there with us with the first red heifer? Melody.
Okay,
Wow.
wow.
Okay, and she made international news. She was covered in France about this thing that happened. Melody disqualified. She got white hairs. So they got a second red heifer. And the Temple Institute had this red heifer, and they had her on a cowboy ranch down in the Elah Valley. Now, the Elah Valley is where David fought Goliath.
Okay.
Okay? It's an Israeli cowboy ranch.
Cool.
All right? Not like Montana, not like
Sure.
Texas. Okay,
Okay.
it's Israeli. And you haven't ever seen anything till you've seen an Israeli cowboy.
Wow. Would love to see that.
So anyway, I went over with Rabbi Richmond, Rabbi Menachem Markover, and we went to inspect her several times. We had charts laid out on the ground. We were working on where this building was, that building was, and these cows were all around us, okay? So we had to come back. We had to raise the money. This was in the 90s, early 2000s. And we had to raise the money, and the calf was going to cost $30,000. The ones today are more expensive. If she disqualifies, you don't get a refund.
Oh my
You're not allowed to get a refund. So here, we raised, right here on this stage, we raised money for the down payment. We had $10,000. we were on our way, coming from up north. We're coming around. We're by Netanya, and we're on the freeway. And there was a car that pulled in front of our bus and hit on the brakes. And our driver hit on the brakes, and I went through the windshield of the bus.
Oh,
Yeah.
my gosh.
And I fell back in, but I shattered that windshield.
Wow.
We got out there with the check. We had this $10,000 in hand, down payment. And this cowboy comes up to me and said, oh, wait, no. Rabbi Richmond came up and said, I think she's going to disqualify. And he has some hairs in his pocket. They were calling in rabbis to convene. This one of the Israeli cowboys came up to him. And if you know Rabbi Richmond, if you've met him, okay?
With the Temple Mount Institute. Or,
Yeah,
yes.
he used to be with the Temple Mount Institute,
Okay.
The Temple Institute.
Okay.
Okay, so he talks very softly, and he gets this close to you, unless he starts talking about politics. then he's pretty loud like other people. But anyway, you have to know it, okay? But this calf had gotten out. Now he knows she's got white hairs, but he can't disqualify her. Okay, he has to call together all these rabbis. So he's running behind this calf, trying to get it in, and he's afraid there's prickly pear cactus all over the place.
Oh my goodness.
And he's afraid she's going to run in and she's going to get a blemish. It's going to be his fault, or she'll, scrape herself on a rock. And he's running behind her and he's going, "Holy cow! Holy cow! Holy cow!" and it fit. She really was a holy cow. Okay. I mean, and so, anyway, they got these five, and they brought them over, and so the guy that is the caretaker for him, his name is Mo Borelli. So I got a call from Rabbi Mordecai Persoff, and he's when we have a temple app and we have a DVD, a virtual reality, and it's used. People can get it for their phones, Android,
Wonderful.
iPhones. If you can get it for an iPad, but
What's the app called?
it's called Second Temple.
Second
Uh-huh.
Temple. Okay.
Second Temple, like 2ND Temple. Second
Okay.
Temple.
Okay.
And but it's used in Israel by the yeshivot. And the rabbis working on the temple, they did all the Hebrew. So it's done in Hebrew. Rico Cortez did the Spanish, and I did the English.
Wow.
And so,
All right. So this app that you're sharing sounds like a phenomenal resource. So
yeah.
just go ahead and give us the name of that again.
Okay,
So-
it's called Second Temple.
Okay.
And you can go to the Play Store. You can go whatever for iPhone.
Okay.
And you can purchase it and put it, on your thing. It's filled with information from the Tanakh, the Mishnah, the Talmud, Josephus. There are little scrolls all over the place. Everything that you're seeing, the reaction. Some of the rabbis that work with the temple, when they went into it, the first reaction that we hear from them is, "I didn't know it was that big.
Wow.
I didn't know it was that big."
That's
And
amazing.
we had Rico Cortez. He took it over and he showed it to an archaeologist that she's a real. In fact, I'm writing an article with her. But when she put it on, she's one of the leading archaeologists that deal with the temple. She cried.
Wow.
She cried. Yeah.
Wow.
That is so special. Well, I pray that that is successful, and also that those tuning in will have an opportunity to download this app.
Yep.
And I know you have some very exciting things to share with us about the red heifers, but before we do that, I just thought we could say a quick prayer. I think we got a little ahead of ourselves. We're so excited to have you here, Mr. Good. So,
Okay.
Eric, if you'll say a quick prayer before we carry on.
Yeah, Avenu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, I thank you so much for all that you've taught Joe and that all that you're teaching us through him. Abba, we just pray for your light to just continue to guide and direct us, and that we would that we would not just be hearers but doers of your word and all that you teach us. We ask this in your name and in your merit, Yeshua. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Let me show. This is a book. It came out in 2013.
Okay.
But this is a book I wrote called Measure the Pattern. And this is on the various gates and a lot of the structures of the, and it's available on Amazon, or you can order it through us. We also have these models. And let me show you the roofs. This is actually important that the roofs are divided, that the rooms are divided. Because in this end, you can sit down, you can eat, you can sleep. But in this end, you can't. In this area, you cannot turn your back on the Holy of Holies. And so here, you see, now this is where the Sanhedrin, and they're required to sit. They're in this end. Do you notice this little thing on top?
Yes.
All right. So here, that's a mikvah.
Oh.
The mikvah is an immersion chamber, and this is for the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. Now, this down here, right along the edge, and it goes all the way around, is a 10-cubit wide space. It's called the Kel. And so the Kel has a higher sanctification, Kedusha, than the outer court, or the city of Jerusalem, or the land of Israel.
Right.
Okay? But in relationship to this, it is the common area. All right?
Okay.
So you can sit in the end that opens to the Kel.
Yes.
And you can sleep. You can cook. All right? But the end that opens to the Azra, the inner court, you can't. Now, we're told that the high priest has to immerse himself 5 times on Yom Kippur. Once, and it's on the roof of this building and the roof of that building, once in the unsanctified area, this mikvah. And you see this one is in the sanctified end, 4 times in the sanctified area. Okay? So these are slaughter areas, and this comes off too. But we have these in different sizes.
That's
and this is the
phenomenal.
latest updated. This is my research team is the one that is the most current.
Okay.
We have the newest discoveries are incorporated in. Okay, so people can, but this website there is JerusalemTempleStudy.com. You can become a member, and you can, all of our shows that we did here on God's Learning Channel, the ones we did have 5 years on TBN.
Yes.
We've got maybe 20,000 videos up there, and people can download them.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Okay, so.
And that's wonderful, because I know you started off highlighting that it's to teach us something about our relationship with Hashem, our heart.
Yeah, very
And
definitely.
So this era that we're in, as we're looking at it being rebuilt, can you maybe share with us a little bit?
Yeah, let me read you a passage.
Sure.
Listen, on the red heifers, they have one that is still qualified. They have to, we don't call it a sacrifice. It's slaughtered. It's not a sacrifice. It's not an offering. Only that, those have to be done in the temple. Okay?
Sure.
Right.
And so
Sacrifice.
there's not an altar, but it'll be done on the Mount of Olives. And there is a very elaborate ceremony if you go to Numbers 19, but you also want to go to the Mishnah. And so in the Mishnah you can go to a website called Sephoria.
Yeah.
And go to Mishnah, go to Parah, P-A-R-A-H, means cow. And go to chapter 3. Actually, just read the first 3 chapters.
Okay.
Okay, wonderful. And just real quick on the red heifer, you mentioned that there are 5. 4 were disqualified.
Right.
One
They
is
still
still
have one.
left potentially to be slaughtered before Passover? for around
Well,
Passover?
they're
needs to
expected to
get
do
to-
it around Passover.
Okay.
They're going to move her to all of them
Mm-hmm.
because they're keeping the ones that disqualified, hoping they can breed them.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
And they're moving
makes
them to
sense.
Shiloh.
Okay.
And so at Shiloh, they're going to have a special place that you can go and view them. They'll have an exhibit room and all of these things. Now, they have another calf. It's in Arizona. And they haven't purchased it yet, but if this one disqualifies, they'll purchase that one. And so this what doesn't mean that we don't have to wait for the temple to do this, but we cannot do the temple till we have
Without
these
that.
ashes.
Right. And
Well-
it needs to get to 2 years and 1 day. Is that correct?
Right.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the magic number. It's not that this has to take place around Passover. It's that we're trying to get to 2 years and 1 day,
Yeah.
and that's when you can do it.
Right.
Okay.
Now, you brought up something interesting. The calf, what we're told in the Mishnah is has to be 3 years old.
Oh.
But it's 2 years old, a 3-year-old calf in the Mishnah equals a 2-year-old calf the way that we see it, the way that we
okay.
count time.
Oh,
Okay.
So Herod has the children killed that are 2 and under.
Wow.
I remember that.
Remember?
Yeah.
They would have been 1 and under.
Huh.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay?
Interesting.
And you just got something by the temple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me read Ezekiel 43. And I'm going to read verse 6, and I'm going to drop down to verse 10. It says, I heard him addressing himself to me from the temple, and there was a man standing next to me, and he said to me, Son of man, this is the place of my throne, and the place of my footstool, where I will dwell amid the children of Israel forever. I'm going to verse 10. You, son of man, tell the house of Israel about the temple, and let them be ashamed of their iniquities, and measure the pattern. And the word there is taknit, which means a blueprint. If they become ashamed of all they have done, then make known to them the form of the temple and its design, its exits and its entrances, all its buildings, forms, all its laws, all its designs, all its teachings, and write all this down before their eyes so that they may safeguard its entire form and all its rules and fulfill them. All right. That is actually spoken of another place. Any idea where?
In Exodus?
No?
So this was in Ezekiel, what you just
That was
read.
in Ezekiel.
Oh,
Where else
No, I
did we
didn't.
find it? It's in the New Testament,
Hebrews?
in Revelation,
Oh.
chapter 11.
I know there's a lot of-
Measure the temple.
oh, that's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Wow.
And so, as we're in this time that we're looking at this possibly happening while you're still alive, what is it that the Father is trying to show us and teach us?
Basically everything.
Yeah.
Basically everything. The people have a misunderstanding of what the offerings were about. So let me ask you a question. Did Yeshua ever bring a sin offering?
I would say no.
If
That
he
would be
didn't,
my
he can't
guess.
be the Messiah,
I think you can't break the Torah.
right?
So,
Oh, if-
he
But
pro-
you're assuming that a sin offering is brought because a person sinned.
Correct.
And that's not true. Okay? You have children?
5.
5.
Yes.
When you gave birth to the child, did you fulfill a commandment or break a commandment?
I don't know.
You fulfilled a commandment. The first commandment is be fruitful and multiply.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so a woman that gives birth, a married woman that gives birth,
Has to
is required to bring a sin offering. People have this misunderstanding on what. Now, the sin offerings do atone for sins. What kind?
The unknown,
Unintentional sin.
unintentional sins. Yeah.
Only unintentional sins.
Yeah, not willful sins.
Right. I don't know about you. I have more problem with intentional sins than I have with unintentional sins. We're rebels.
Right.
We're
sure.
rebels. We'll have that God says, don't do this, and we will do it. Let me give you an example. An example is that you should watch your tongue and you not be critical, not be rude and ugly to people. But yet we will get aggravated and we'll go in there. I'm going to tell them what it is. And we'll know that God, that it is not something that God would have us do, that was sin. That's an intentional sin. No sin offering for that. Okay? Only unintentional sins. All right? So here's this problem. I mean, did the believers in Yeshua, did they bring offerings after Yeshua was slain and resurrected?
Yes.
Yes. In the year 58 Common Era. So Yeshua was slain in 30 Common Era and resurrected. We go 28 years and we find Paul in the temple at the instruction of James and the other elders to bring, to do the offerings of the Nazarite.
Right.
And to pay the expenses of 4 other men that had taken a vow like he had taken. And it actually says that they bring offerings. In Acts 24, verse 17. In Acts 24, 17, we have Paul is before Festus and Felix. And he says, I came to Jerusalem to bring offerings and alms. The Greek word there is for the Hebrew korbanot. It's not money that he came. The believers continue to bring these offerings. We'll have them in the future.
Yeah. Joe, I have a question. This is probably for maybe some of our audience that just is learning about this stuff for the very first time. So when you're doing research for, the red heifer, how that worked, where the Cohen or the priest could have maybe went to the restroom while they're on temple duties and all these things, what you have to reach beyond maybe our Christian Bible that we know. And a lot of these resources aren't really acceptable, right? Like there's a lot of church fathers or pastors, and they've just anything. These other resources, they're quote unquote they're not inspired by the Spirit of God or whatever.
Okay.
But there's so much data in them. I mean, what is the recipe for the table of showbread? I mean, somewhere it's written down, right?
Right.
Somebody
He
has
says,
to know this stuff.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
Okay? He says, you shall bring me these loaves of bread. Okay? But it's not written down how they were made.
Right.
Okay? And we've got the Shtei HaLechem. Okay? So the Shtei HaLechem, that's the 2 loaves that are going to be waved before the festival of Shavuot. And they have 2 lambs between them, literally. And these loaves have leaven. The bread that goes into the no leaven. Okay? So it's not one general bread recipe is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. See?
God had to give all of these recipes. So where do you go? Well, there is what is called menachot. Menachot means breads. And it is a tractate of the Mishnah where they wrote down all of these pieces of information for us. But that's a wonderful example.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're one of the things, if you're going to work on this, you're going to realize you have to, number one, you're going to, let me phrase it this way. If God required us to do something, he had to record that information somewhere for us. It has to be there where it will be discovered and you know it was from God. Okay?
Right.
So, some of that is in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah.
Some of that is in the writings of Josephus. Some of it is in the Mishnah. Some of it is in archaeological discovery. But God is the one that finds everything.
Wow. So, how many years have you been studying the temple?
40.
40.
A little bit over.
And I know that GLC has your teachings that our viewers can reference. But it's been such a pleasure to visit with you, and I think we have to start wrapping it up, unfortunately. But thank you so much, Mr. Joe, for being with us.
Well, thank you.
And thank you to all of our viewers who have tuned in.
Joe, do you tell us again, what are your websites one more time, just so everybody knows?
JerusalemTempleStudy.com.
Okay.
And that's the primary one.
All right.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you so much. We can't wait to visit with you again. And everybody in the general audience, thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this show, please make sure you like and share. And thank you for all your support. We'll see you next time on GLC.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom, shalom.